Hey guys, Pure Living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So I know it's been a minute since I did a video. Was traveling, was sick for a while, but I'm back, I'm here, I'm with you again. So let's talk about the most important thing probably that's going on right now is the Ponzi scheme selling garbage from PlusToken. If you're completely out of the loop, basically this Ponzi acquired over 200,000 BTC and have been slowly dripping it over the past couple months, maybe since June. I don't have proof of that going that far back readily available, but you can look for it. It's out there. Follow Ergo BTC. He's been all over it like white on rice. The most bullish thing lately is that they stop selling. So if they start selling again, then we just keep falling. I mean, that's just how it is. That's how it's going to be. We've had a lot of weird price movements lately over the past month, I'd say, just barting all over the place. We had that 40% up day, and then it's just been draining since then, largely, I think, in part due to this PlusToken stuff. To go to the charts, got to start somewhere. Start with the people's undisputed champion of the world, the pitchfork, long time running since 2015. Now, you might hate it, that's fine, but we're currently in the same zone we were in November through March. Certainly don't have a really good chart pattern or anything to support like a buy here, other than just it's the farthest it's going to get from the mean based on the historical rate of change. That's how I would read this. Everything else I'm going to say is not bullish. This certainly isn't bullish, but it's hopium. If I think hopium is a strong word with a negative connotation. It yields itself to a strong probability of a mean reversion play back to 12.5. We'll say it like that. In my mind, this pitchfork stuff is a lot like stock to flow, a lot like all the other logarithmic trend stuff, where there's a mean for the rate of change and we can go above and below that. But at the end of the day, we're most likely going to return to the mean more often than not. So even if we go to zero, I still like our chances of 12.5 within my lifetime here. Let's talk about something a lot of people are talking about, which is the 200 EMA or MA. I like EMAs better, so whatever. Basically, we've had a few key touches historically for lows in 2015. Lows in 2018, 2019 sort of violated that. I think people were seeing that at the time and calling 3K, especially because they're like, oh, well, we broke. It supported here in 2015. It broke here. Now a lot of people are calling for this again. It goes to 5.6. It's probably not going to change much between now and a couple months from now. It'll go up a little bit, but it'll probably stay pretty flat. I don't see it approaching 6.5 before we hit 6.5 if we drop. So I think 5.6 is a decent target, and we'll look at VPVR a few charts later, but certainly a possibility. Something that came to the back of your mind, high time frame drop target. Now, if we talk about trend, really three things I look at. It's the 20 SMA on the weekly, the 200 EMA on the daily, and then MacDaddy Cloud as far as price related to above or below the cloud. So as you can see, we're below the 20 SMA here, kind of sort of pushing out of B-bands. This isn't a div at all on B-band width or anything like that yet. So can't really call a reversal strength or like declining bearish momentum or anything like that. But it does give another 9.2, 9.3 mean reversion target. Not like something I'm expecting to happen, but certainly not out of the question just based on mean reversion principles. Looking at RSI on the weekly, historically it's got to be above 50 if we're bullish, and we're definitely not above 50. We're sort of almost at 40 at this point. So another thing I look at, not something that leads my trading decisions, but at the back of my mind, if RSI is above 50, we're certainly more bullish than bearish. We do have a bull div on MACD and OBV on the weekly, something I never look at, but it's there. We got lower lows, we got higher lows in these oscillators. Weekly cloud, I say it maybe every video, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but cloud is an indeterminate trend, no trade zone. So if we're in the cloud on any time frame, that should tell the trader that anything is possible, basically. We go up, down, sideways, backwards, as we've done in this weekly cloud. It's certainly the worst case scenario from a trading perspective because it's extremely hard to know what the hell's going on the high time frames. We can, this, for example, much cleaner. We had a 256-day, whatever, ascending triangle, broke up. Awesome. This is a little more nonsensical as far as like following the TA or trying to let the TA guide you in some manner, mainly because it's just been all over the place, obviously. So if we're looking at leading into halving, we'll probably again have price within the bearish cloud. Hopefully we will have a bullish twist by halving. We'll know what's going on as far as, are we in the cloud? Are we below the cloud? If we're below the cloud leading into halving, extremely bearish. If we're in the cloud leading into halving, I'm neutral to bullish. And if we're above the cloud by some miracle, which I don't think will happen leading into halving, we're extremely bullish. So those are the things to look at next year, 6 to 12 months from now, as far as what to be looking for. A lot of people were talking about halving in 2016, 2015. It was certainly the predominant narrative at that time. And it's quickly becoming a predominant narrative again, leading into this halving into 2020. If we look at 5200 cross, got a death cross the other day. Didn't see too many people talking about it, probably because we were nosediving. I saw a lot of people poo-pooing the cross, post pre 40% move, post 40% move. As we, I don't know, I just saw a lot of headlines like, oh, the death cross or the crosses are always late. It usually signals a bottom, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's the case again. I doubt it. Again, this mean reversion thing, 82, 83, 85, somewhere in there, based on the 200 EMA. Certainly a level that is probable. Now, the cloud certainly likes 8,500. So if we look at the TK lines, the separation between them just shows you how fast and how quickly we dropped without any bullish momentum. Got denied at the Tenkin a couple times. We're just now starting to flatten out on the Tenkin. So if this can go flat for another week or two, the odds increase exponentially that we're going to retest 8.5. The first thing you'd look for is a break of the Tenkin. So I think this is going to be slow. If anything, this is a nice W or an Adam Eve or an Adam Adam sort of situation where you'll know. But the cloud is teeing it up right now as we speak for a play to 8.5. Now, this isn't like a bull trend play to 8.5. This is a go long from 7.4 to 8.5, short 8.5 and whatever, because again, we're not above the cloud. This isn't bullish. We never got entry into the cloud this whole time. I don't know how it does it. It's miraculous. It is voodoo. How did it know? Amazing. But yeah, we never got that edge to edge trigger. So now the best long play would be mean reversion to 8.5 and then short anything around that zone for the Kijun bounce down to Goblin Town. We'll see. But that's what the cloud is teeing up for. Moving to the 6 hour just to show sort of VPVR. Luckily, this whole zone has sort of been congested in the sense that we have a lot of price history here. We don't have a lot of price history if we make lower lows, but if we start to break 8K, 7.5, whatever, not a lot of volume. There's a nice little bite here leading up to 8.888 for that mean reversion play again to 8.5, 92, somewhere in there. I know it's a big zone, but based on EMAs and cloud, that's sort of where we're pointing to. Definitely not bull trend stuff, but just mean reversion stuff. And kind of just looking at patterns, we had a failed head and shoulders, 50-50 equilateral triangle, failed diamond bottom that reversed anyway, and then a failed falling wedge that just broke way down. We did have a really nice inverted head and shoulders here. So I highlight these patterns just to say I'm not super confident we're going to actually break out from this W Adam Eve thing, but it's definitely worth watching. I wouldn't be shorting here. Looking at this setup, the cloud is telling me that you got to have some real confidence if we're going short here. We got to start breaking lows again. just because we're so oversold, basically, is what the cloud is showing. If we look at 4 hour, again, this Adam Eve W thing, the cloud again saying the safest long would be 7.6 and above. It's nice that we're flattening out, taking our sweet old time, accumulating whatever, however you want to call it. But you're looking for a bullish twist. You're looking for a Kumo breakout. 7.6 would be the early play. Anything above 7.8, it's go time. From there to like 8.4, 8.5, 8.6. 9.2 would certainly be overperformance based on daily cloud. 9.2 would bring us into the cloud at that point. So, it could be one of these wick situations again where we wick to 9.2, drop down, close for the day around 8.5, and then just fade for the next week from there. If we look at the CME futures contracts, another reason not to be bullish is just looking at these high time frame contracts, the biannuals. They've just been down or up. There really hasn't been in between. And it doesn't expire till the 27th. It's been down for a majority of the contract, 3/4 or more of the contract at this point. So to expect anything massively bullish from here, I think is hopium at that point. But leading into next year, we talk about Q1. Q1 historically is not good for crypto. We have taxes for US citizens and whoever else. So maybe Q2 again is where we're looking to be bullish again. Looking at Tether, I don't even know what to think of Tether at this point as far as how it affects the ecosystem. But one thing I've noticed is that if we dip below $1 on this small USDT, USD Kraken market, we tend to be bearish. The only way I can rationalize that is if we're bearish broadly, people just want to get into cash and fiat and just out of everything. If we look at the past 4 times we were extended below $1 for a period of time, these weren't bullish periods at all. They were some of the most bearish. Arguably, you can count this too, but I didn't. It's hard to say, no correlation, causation, blah, 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 whatever. But seeing this to me this was the longest period in a while that we were below $1 on Tether. Now this was like, a big zone we were below $1, but we were bullish then. So I don't really know how to read any of this, but going forward, if we're below $1 on the USDT USD market on Kraken, certainly something to check in the list as far as how bullish are we. All right, let's switch to ETH. Now, there's 2 things that pop out to me immediately on the weekly chart. One is this flat Kumo around 700 to 750. So in my lifetime, I'm pretty confident that we're going to return to that level. The second thing is this bearish Kumo twist below the cloud on the weekly chart. Now, there isn't a more bearish signal than that. That is as bearish as it gets for the cloud system. So the next 6 to 12 months could get pretty hairy for ETH if there is not a catalyst. And you could say, well, Istanbul's coming, phase 0 of ETH 2.0 is coming. Maybe that's enough to save it. I don't know. But trend-wise, it doesn't look great, certainly. And if we keep breaking lows, 50 will get tested. And that's really the biggest level on the way down, below 80 or whatever the low was here. So I think the odds of hitting 50 before 750 are higher than 50%. It depends what it looks like, post-fork, post-January, leading into Q2. Certainly possible we hit 50 within Q1. I'm not like a mega bear, but just looking at the way the cloud looks does not instill any confidence in me that there's any bullish momentum whatsoever here. Now that changes if we start breaking 150, 200, 250. If we start breaking these levels, these psychological resistance levels, then it's a different story. Now, if you can break into 260 leading like post-Bitcoin halving, then things are going to start to get interesting for ETH as far as that 750 target next year. Is it possible next year? Yeah, sure. Q3, Q4 next year. But is it likely? No. Less than 15% chance probably. But it depends how we look broadly. I think, if BTC is above 15K next year and it looks good into Q4, then we can start talking about 750. But this isn't anything in the near term. I do think there's a decent narrative for, you know, buying the lows of Q4 and then selling into Q2, something like that for ETH. Again, we had this death cross on ETH. It's been down ever since. Haven't really been able to muster any sort of bull rally that's been sustained. This was sort of leading into DevCon, and then it's just been death ever since then. It's got a small W Adam Eve situation, but not as prominent as a lot of the other charts. And the cloud, there isn't a prominent TK C-clamp here, but it is pretty far below the Kijun. Nothing substantial. Again, this hard fork's coming 12.7. It's sort of in this zone of support resistance where it has to make up its mind. If it can break 150 with some momentum and some volume, break above the cloud, break above the 200, which is at like 190, you know, then it's a different story. But right now, it certainly doesn't look great trend-wise. And again, on the 4-hour, if we look at the cloud, anything above 160 is go time, based on the Adam Eve, based on the cloud. And again, looking at supports on the VPVR, if it makes a lower low, it doesn't look great. You know, it goes 110, 100, 90, and then, you know, 50, 60 zone, something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if it breaks lows. It wouldn't surprise me we hit 50 within the next 6 months. And a lot can change between now and 2 months from now, obviously. But the way it's headed, the way all this DeFi stuff is looking, if we break lows, it's going to get ugly. That's for sure. And ETH BTC sort of had a shot, just to talk about the last chart here, at a bullish Kumo breakout, but it's not looking great. You know, it's something to watch, but not something to write home to Ma about or anything. But, you know, if we get the Kumo breakout, it would be the first in like a year almost. So it's certainly a decent shot for up. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.